welcome back. This is What If Deku Had Rain's Powers, Part 5. And sorry about being, MIA for about 2 weeks. I just got done moving, so yeah, just gonna jump right back into this. Where we last left off, it was with Deku had decided that, for his mentoring session, he was going to go with Night Eye. And so that would put him at a completely different area than he would have been in the original. And Bakugo is going to be going to Hawks, and Kaminari and Todoroki are going to Endeavor. And everybody else is still going to their usual picks. So we pick up, and it's time for everybody to start going to the to the training. So Deku, he leaves, and as soon as he does, he's already fully aware where Night Eye is at, so he just teleports right there. He's not going to be wasting any time because he knows that Night Eye was All Might's sidekick and that they had a falling out. But nothing really past that, so he's kind of interested. Especially since he looked up and researched Night Eye a whole lot and found out what his quirk was. So Deku's pretty motivated on getting stronger, but he also, he knows that Night Eye knows about, One for All, so he's thinking Night Eye could help him, get a better handle on that. So he goes there, and Night Eye, he said even though he sent him an offer, he's still going to put him through the test that, he put Deku through in the overhaul arc. But I'm going to say this time, Deku, he was expecting it. But instead of having to, stamp a paper to say approved or whatever, he says, all I want you to do is try to take this stamp from me without using any teleportation. He's like, I want to see your best hand-to-hand combat. Don't use any of your power and try to take this from me. And so Deku, he's like, okay. He's not going to be backing down anytime soon. So the first part of his training is hand-to-hand combat training. And, him and Night Eye are fighting, and Night Eye can see what Deku's going to do, not because he's using his quirk, but I'm going to say it's because Night Eye can read his muscle movements. Because, even though Deku is, a very good Muay Thai fighter, he still has a lot of excess movements, and, that tends to, telegraph his movements to someone who's more trained and more specialized in fighting, like Night Eye was, because Night Eye doesn't have a physical power, so every physical thing he did was through his own work. And so Night Eye, he's seeing it, but, Deku, he's catching on, and he's seeing his own wasted movements, and he's slowly starting to correct them while he fights. So I'm going to say it goes on for about an hour. And at this point, Deku, he's sweating pretty good. He's not used to having to spar for this long. Especially against someone who can read his movements. So he's getting very agitated, but he's trying to keep it under control. But Night Eye is intentionally antagonizing him, trying to get him to, to break, to try and snap and lash out. And, Night starts delving into Deku's personal life because, like Deku did his research on Night did his research on Deku. And, he's finding out a lot of things about Deku that he's using as ammunition, like exactly how Bakugo did in the sports tournament. And Deku, he's pissed at this point because he's just like, don't even try that shit with me. And so he's still keeping his word about not using any of his quirks. But boy, does he start getting sloppy. And Night Eye capitalizes on that and ends up, putting Deku into a submission hold and holding him down. And Deku can't really move much right now without using his quirk. And Night Eye has made it apparently clear that if he uses his quirk before, Night Eye allows him to, he won't teach him anything. So, and Deku needs to learn. So, Deku is just stuck. It is actually the first time someone has actually beaten him in hand-to-hand combat that wasn't his master. So he is definitely feeling irritated by this. And Night he lets him go, and he throws the stamp to him. And Deku, he catches it. And he's like, were you just going to give me this, like, the whole time? And Night he said, before I answer that, why don't you answer some of my questions? Like, did you learn anything? And, Deku told him, like, yeah, I learned some things. I learned that, you've done your research on me. And I know that you were able to somehow read my movements and that I had a lot of wasted movements, but that's about it. And Night Eye says, well, you didn't get a perfect score, but you did pass the first test. And Night Eye, it explains to him, like, you get angry every time someone tries to bring up something about your past. You get way too angry and you lose control. And he says, as you can see, if you didn't have a powerful quirk, you would be getting yourself into a lot of trouble. You relied too much on your quirk, and it's left you narrow-minded. It's left you a slave to your anger. Because wherever your mind goes, your body is going to follow. So if you do things like out of anger and all that, it's not going to end well for you. He's like, I know you have a water-based quirk, so let me tell you, water is able to form to like anything, You put it into a cup, it'll become the cup, You need to be more like the water that your quirk is made of. Anger, it's not a good emotion to use in a fight because all it does, it tricks your brain into thinking you're working harder when you're really just burning your body out. And that's going to leave you open. And as soon as you got pissed, your form just went to shit. Like, you had way too many openings. And anybody who, is, not blind could have easily have taken you out. So, your first lesson is going to be controlling your anger and breaking free of the chains that are binding you to it. And Deku, he's just like, he's starting to actually think about it, and he's realized that Nai's right. Like, his anger has just been controlling him this whole entire time. And so Deku's like, okay, so what? You gonna be my shrink or something? And Nai says, oh no. No. I'm just going to keep making you mad until you're able to control yourself from getting mad. And Deku, he's just like, crap. He's like, but beyond that, you're going to relearn martial arts because I can tell you're a Muay Thai dominant, but Muay Thai isn't going to help you in every situation. He's like, you need to learn how to grapple, you need to learn how to do throws. You're going to need to mix it up a whole lot. Like, Muay Thai is good, yes, but you need more diversity in there because it's just not a good matchup for you. And he says, like, it only worked for All Might because he used his quirk for the power destructive force of it. Deku, he's actually thinking about that, and he's realizing it. And now I ask him, how do you want to use One for All? And Deku's just like, I just want it to be able to enhance my already strong quirk, but really to enhance my body as well. I just want it to be able to make me move faster. And Nada says, well, then martial arts is going to help you a lot more than it would have helped All Might. So they start working on that, and, going to cut over to, Todoroki and Kaminari. And so, Endeavor, he sees Kaminari and he sees Shoto, and he's just like, alright. He says, Shoto, glad you made it. He looked at Kaminari, he's like, well, I'm surprised you showed up. And Kaminari's like, well, you are the number 2 hero, and you are incredibly strong, so it would make sense for me to choose the strongest person that sent me an offer. And Endeavor, he just flat out tells Kaminari, I'm just going to use you to make Shoto stronger. We are going to use you to eliminate Shoto's weaknesses. And that is it. And with Kaminari, he's just like, you think that's all you're going to have me here for, but by you using me to, eliminate his weaknesses, you're actually going to be helping me eliminate my weaknesses as well, because you're going to need to be exploiting my weaknesses in order to, fix his, which is going to be helping both of us instead of one. So Endeavor's, he's following what he's saying, and he's actually impressed the kid wasn't just depressed and deterred from even trying after hearing that. So he actually starts thinking, if he makes Kaminari stronger and that somehow leads to Todoroki, his own son, becoming stronger, it could actually work out a lot better that way, and Shoto would get a lot stronger. Because he can tell, Shoto's already using his fire. So he doesn't have to worry about trying to convince him to use that anymore. And after the sports festival happened, he's pretty much not even going to try and touch on the subject on getting into why he's, using his fire. But he does bring up an interesting point to Todoroki. He's like, do you want to learn more ice techniques? And Todoroki, he's actually piqued by this. He's just like, what do you mean? You can't teach me anything about ice, you know. You're just fire. You're not ice. And he's like, well, if you'll agree to training, I could potentially have your mother be released and brought to live with you and your siblings. And she could teach you everything about ice. And this is actually surprising to Todoroki by a lot, because Endeavor is actually willing to release his mother. He knows that it's a bribe and that he'll be forced to endure hellish training again, but he'd have to submit to it willingly. But still, he would get to see his mother, and it would go a long way towards helping him. And he says, he agrees. And Endeavor says, alright, but you have to pass my test for this entire mentoring program. And Todoroki, he's kind of pissed about that, but he's not gonna say anything that might fuck up getting his mother released. He knows his mom's still gonna be damaged as fuck and gonna have to have a hospital staff at the home, but at least, you know, his mother's gonna be home. So Kaminari, he's like, alright, so what's first? Like, what's the first type of training? And, you know, the first type of training they actually do is going to be sparring. And Kaminari is actually kind of surprised that they're going to be jumping right into sparring. Even Shoto's a bit surprised. And Kaminari actually asks, why are they immediately going to sparring? And he says, you've probably got the wrong idea of who you're going to be fighting. And they look at each other and, you know, they're pretty much thinking they're going to fight each other, but no. Not this time. Endeavor has a very wide and evil grin, and he says since Shoto agreed to his terms, he's changing the training program and he's going to be making both of them stronger. And to do that, they're going to be fighting Endeavor every day through the entirety of the mentoring program. And when they're not fighting, they're going to go out on patrol and they're going to increase their street smarts about what activity goes down on the streets and what they're actually going to be doing. And he says, don't think patrolling is going to be a walk in the park either, though. And Kaminari's like, he's thinking to himself, what the hell did I get myself wrapped up in? But he's thinking, oh well, if this can help me close the gap to Deku, I'm all for it. He's like, consequences be damned. And, you know, they're doing it. Like, the fight, it starts off, you know, Endeavor, he's just standing there with his arms crossed. And, you know, he tells them, what are you waiting for? Come at me. And I was like, they're both going to try and use long-range attacks on him because they're not wanting to get anywhere near up close and personal with Endeavor at all. And this is where I'm actually going to give Kaminari a new ability, kinda. You know, he sticks out his finger like making a finger gun, and he charges his electricity at the tip of his finger. and it starts to make a ball of electricity. And he's able to get a whole lot more wattage and voltage and power into that by pinpointing all the electricity into one point and discharging it out towards his opponent. And he's gonna end up, best thing he's thinking of is, overcharged bullet. And he shoots it. Endeavor's actually very impressed that this kid who is, just a loser came up with such an effective way to increase his power in one go. But it's not really doing nothing to Endeavor. He just smacks it away. Because Endeavor was able to fucking roast Anomu's head with his bare hand. So, at this point in time, Kaminari is not going to do any type of damage to Endeavor. He's going to need to get a lot stronger. So, Shoto's using his ice abilities because he knows fire against his dad isn't going to cut it. Not at all. And so, they're actually sparring. And Endeavor's, he's studying them. While he's moving around, he's just avoiding. He's just using his superior speed to dodge all the attacks and use what little fire he needs to just melt all the ice and keep the room misty. So he's studying their movements and their reactions to every scenario that pops up. And about 30 minutes in, he calls a stop to it. And they're both surprised that he would call a stop to it this early. Especially Shoto, knowing how his father was in the past. And his, Endeavor is just like, okay, so I've studied you guys for 30 minutes, and you guys don't have a whole lot of battle prowess yet. He's like, your opponent vanishes into smoke where you cannot see him, and you think shooting random attacks is the way to go. That's just wasting your energy. The best move would have been is to partner up, cover each other's blind spots, and move in closer. It's 2v1. You guys are acting like it's a 1v1 when it's not. You have each other to use each other. You cover for each other's weaknesses so they can find out what each other's weaknesses are, and then you can improve upon them. He's like, if this was a real battle scenario, you both would have been dead already. He's like, you're not always going to be able to choose who you have to team up with, so it's best for you two at your level right now to become very, very well acquainted with teamwork, especially against someone who is way stronger than you. And he's like, strength is important, yes, but technique and timing are the key to overpowering someone who is stronger than you individually. And he says, we're going to go again from the top, but this time I won't just be dodging. You make a mistake, you're gonna get hit, and you're gonna get hit hard. I'll hold back, but I can't promise it's not gonna hurt like hell. So after doing that for about an hour, after that, they stop. Endeavor tells them to hit the showers and then get ready for patrol. And, that's pretty much what they have to do now. So they shower, they get ready to go on patrol, and as they're out patrolling, Endeavor's just constantly pop quizzing them over what you would do here, what you would do there, what's the best scenario in case of this, what's the best scenario in case of that. And, they're just having a really hard time trying to get used to Endeavor's teaching style. So, now we switch over to Bakugo. Since he went with Hawks, I'm going to say he meets Hawks in an undisclosed location. He's not going to be in the same city as Deku or Ida or, Kaminari and Todoroki. He's just not going to be in that area. He's going to be on the far outskirts, somewhere around in there where there's not a whole lot of heroes. And what heroes are, they're very low tier. And Hawks is, he's actually talking to Bakugo. He's wanting to know how Bakugo feels after losing, especially humiliatingly bad to Deku. And he wants to know if Bakugo learned anything from that. And Bakugo, he's actually going to be straight up honest with him. He's like, honestly, all that I really feel right now is just hatred towards him. Like, he clearly had me beaten, but he didn't stop. He just kept beating me and beating me and beating me. Just relentlessly. He's like, I know what I said was messed up, but it was a very, accurate plan for what I had in mind. I thought he would have gotten sloppy. I didn't think he'd just go all serious. And Hawks points out, well, that's one of your flaws right there. If you didn't think of the worst case scenario and the best case scenario before you decided to think if it's worth the risk. And Bakugo, he's actually thinking on that. But Hawks asks him, what does he hope to gain from working with him? And Bakugo straight up tells him, power. I want power more than anything. And Hawks asks why. He's like, I want to be so powerful that Deku will never be able to even touch me again. And Hawks he's catching on that, Bakugo is really only motivated right now just to get so much stronger than Deku that it would be a one-sided massacre, but on the reverse the next time they come to blows. And Hawks tells him, look, my quirk is not a physically strong or powerful quirk. I can use my wings feathers to, get people out of the way, or I can use them as blades, but it doesn't increase my overall strength. He's like, that's just not how my quirk works. And Bakugo asks him, then how are you the third topped hero? And Hawks tells him, strategy. I use my strategy to overcome everything. And Bakugo just asked him, like, who is your favorite hero then? Like, you've had to have a favorite hero growing up. Who was it? And, Hawks tells him straight up, it was Endeavor. And this actually blows Bakugo's mind. He's like, Endeavor? Why Endeavor instead of All Might? And Hawk says, look, we're not getting into that right now. What we're going to get into is how I'm going to train you. I'm not going to increase your physical strength, but I will increase your mental strength. He's like, I'm going to make a tactician out of you, and this is all that's going to be going on. This is why I chose this location to do this, is because there's not a whole lot of activity here, and it's perfect for increasing your tactical prowess. And Bakugo, he's understanding. And of course, Stain's still around. He's still killing heroes. And Ida's not giving up. Like, he isn't giving up on people. And, Deku, he remembers that, and he brings it to Night Eye's attention. And of course, Night Eye, knowing that there is a huge risk going on, he does let Manuel know about what Ida could potentially try to do. But Manuel, he's kind of blowing it off, saying, no, Ida would never do something like that. And Night Eye's like, you do know that was his brother, right? And this is where Manuel, he starts to take offense. He's like, of course I know. Of course. He's like, well, why do you think he's there to mentor under you? He's like, well, his brother worked with me. I worked with his brother. Maybe he figured I was the only pro hero that could make him more like his brother. But Manuel, he's in denial at this point. He's just pushing that out of his head. And he hangs up on Night Eye. And him and Ida are going out on patrol. Meeting with Shigaraki and Stain still happens like normal. Nothing really changing there. And so, I'm going to say he still comes along with against Stain, but this time Manuel, he's trying to keep a closer eye on Ida, but the Nomus are starting to attack now. So there's not much he can really do, because every pro hero is, fighting for their lives. The police are scrambled. Everything, like hell, is just breaking loose. And, Ida, he confronts Stain, same thing, but this time there's no one to help him. Nobody's coming to his rescue. And I'm going to say Stain attempts to kill him, much like he did his brother. But Stain's just going to change his mind, On the flip side, he's killed Native like he said he was going to. And since Ida's not actually like a full-blown hero, just like one in training, he's not going to go as far as to kill him. But he does make sure Ida can never become a hero again by severing his spine. Like, he just stabs into Ida's back and does a little slash across his spinal cord, and he cuts it in half. severing every nerve ending in there and paralyzes Ida from the neck down. So Ida's even in worse condition than his brother. And Stain says, "This is the mercy I will show you. For your selfish desires, I will ruin your life, but allow you to live as a mercy, since you were not a hero." And yeah, so pretty much Stain isn't captured because he uses the Nomu confusion to his advantage and just hightails it out of there. And of course that does affect the recruitment into the League of Villains. But of course, Shigaraki puts out his own message this time around. Like, he saw that Stain's not really the publicity type of guy. And he figured that he should at least try to use Stain to the most of his ability. So he puts out a message saying that he's met with the hero killer Stain, the one ridding the world of these so-called heroes. And from what he met with Stain, he wasn't impressed. Stain is only out there to let All Might kill him. But Shigaraki says that his League of Villains is out for something much greater. He wants to completely destroy the Hero Society as a whole, getting rid of all those false and just ruthless heroes that are only out for themselves, who don't care about the little guys, who are never there for people in their time of need. He's wanting to restructure the world in a way that's much different than its current state. And that he's welcoming any and all who are willing to put their lives on the line to achieve his goal. That he's there to make this world better for them as well. And that it's just not a selfless endeavor to become a martyr like Stain. He's just wanting to destroy all the heroes and this hero society they've brought up. And that he'll be doing any means to achieve that goal. And obviously, this gets Dabi in easy. This is definitely getting Dabi to join up with Shigaraki no matter what. I'm going to say Toga, she's definitely going to see this, and she's definitely going to try and join. Twice sees this as a way of protecting himself from the heroes. If they know he's with the League, they'll think twice before coming after him. So he still joins up. But Spinner, he's not really buying it, But it does get some other recruits. Like Muscular, he'll still join because he sees this as a way to take on the heroes and have a fallback in case things get, kind of dicey. And All for One is just pleased. He is just pleased with this. And he's just like, well done, well done. And he tells them about, some people that might be of value, and he tells them about some potential rivals who might try and step in at this point. And Shigaraki, he takes note of this, and he thanks his mentor, and he welcomes his new people into the League of Villains. And pretty much after the aftermath, Manuel, he finds Native and Ida, and he sees that Ida's in terrible shape. He calls the paramedics. They get Ida, they get him, and it's just taken out of there. And he's definitely feeling regretful for not heeding Night Eye's advice more seriously sooner. And Todoroki and Kaminari, they hear this and they're just like, wow. Yes. And they rush over to try and help console Ida, but of course, he's in the ICU. No visitors are allowed. And they just think back to what they were doing, like fighting off all these Nomu, trying their best to survive and help people. And Deku, he hears what happened, and he feels like he's failed again. But this is where Night Eye kind of steps in. He's like, hey, you didn't fail. That Ida kid is the one who failed. You tried to tell him not to go after that person for revenge. You told him that this could possibly happen. It's on him for not listening to you. And he sits Deku down and he tells him, your goal's not realistic. You can't save everyone. There's going to be somebody somewhere that you're just not going to know about who's going to be a victim. He's like, as heroes, it's our job to save as many people as we can, yes. He's like, but it's also our job to avenge those who have been hurt by the villains. And he tells Deku, like, you need to make a choice, because you can't be someone who avenges and someone who's out to protect everyone. And he's like, you're conflicted inside. You don't know what you want to do or how you want to achieve it. He's like, as for me, I do my hero work, in a smarter way. I gather information, I plan, I organize, I collaborate, and then I bring them down. I avenge the people that are hurt. And in the doing so of avenging, I'm preventing more victims from occurring. He's like, I'm protecting all the people that I can and avenging the people that have already fell. He's like, you have to understand, you can't go against somebody with knowing nothing. And after, Deku, considering he's got his ass beat by Night Eye for the majority, he's actually listening to what Night Eye's got to say. And of course, he appreciates what Night Eye's saying to him. And he tells him, after, learning from you, I've pretty much accepted that fact, because if you're saying that you can't even save everyone, and All Might couldn't either, it makes sense. He's like, for so long, the only reason why I wanted to save everyone is because of what happened to my mother. And he's like, I know I've let that become a shackle that chained me down. He's like, I'm not going to be chained by it anymore. He says, I will be the avenger that avenges the fallen and protects the people that he can. He's like, I'm not going to be running into stuff half-baked or not knowing what I'm going to expect out of things. I'm going to make sure that I can do everything within my power to give me the most odds of success. And Night Eye says, you have grown a lot in such a short period of time. And that he's proud of him, and whenever the time comes to, have a mentor again or a hero program, that he's always open to accepting Deku. And so Deku says that he's definitely going to be sticking with Night Eye. So, that's done. Everybody goes back to school. They all learn about what happened to Ida. And shit. I'll have to cut that out. But anyway. And they're just like, wow. Like, they didn't know that shit was... They're in disbelief. And Deku, he's not gonna go see Ida yet, but he is thinking about it. But that is where I'm going to be leaving it off for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, and subscribe. And, if you have any recommendations, leave it down in the comments below. Just any type of feedback is really helpful. I'll see y'all next time.